Now recording.
Wasn't gonna have one. All right. Good to see everyone this morning. So I had told Nick last week that my topic was going to be market update and the housing crisis, but I decided to take out the word crisis because it tends to put fear into people, and just change it to frenzy because I think that's a little bit more of what we're seeing, especially here locally. You know, it's not a crisis in the sense that people can't find homes or not able to sell homes or things like that, but it's definitely a little bit different of a market, a little bit more of a frenzy, I would say. And we've had to adjust accordingly. So I get a lot of questions about this, so I kind of wanted to go through this, and feel free to pipe in and ask questions. Go ahead. So what do you guys think is the number one question realtors get? Not necessarily right now, but just the number one question people get. I'm going to say, Kenneth, you can't answer it. Anyone?
How much can I afford on a home?
It's a good one.
How much can I list my house for?
Good one.
How quickly can you sell my house?
Jessica?
What areas can you recommend?
Ooh, that's a good one. How's the market? Literally daily. Like you could just, I always wear my pin when I'm out and about. I'll be at the grocery store and someone will be like, oh, you're a realtor. How's the market? So what do you guys think is the answer to that question?
Terrific. Depends.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Mark had it. It depends. And what does it depend on? It depends on literally all the other questions that you guys asked, which is, how much can I get for my home? Well, it depends on where, the condition, maybe any maintenance or updates, issues or things that you have done. It depends on the demand, which we'll go into. So it depends on so many different things. Some subdivisions are hotter than other ones right now, and price points too. There's certain price points that go a lot faster than other price points. So there's also, your house could have functional issues that the house next door doesn't have, and so those things all are taken into consideration. It also depends on if you're a buyer or a seller. Many buyers right now may not think that it's a great market for them. Many of them might be a little frustrated. So, and sellers, we'll talk about that as well. So it just depends on so many different things. And so that is legit. The answer is it depends. And then I followed up with, are you thinking of buying or selling? And then go into kind of drilling down. And then I can talk about, what it might mean for them specifically. So go ahead. All right, so this is a recent report from PAR, and I have the same thing pulled up here on my computer just so I can read it a little bit easier here. So they put out this press release April 21st of this year. Home area, Peoria area home sales up 15%. And the data here is, we're looking at several counties. It's not just, Peoria City proper, so keep that in mind. We've got Peoria, Tazewell, Woodford. Also, they took in a few other the counties like Hancock and I think Marshall.
McDonough?
Yeah, exactly. So there's some other ones in there, and there's a reason for that. Our local MLS became the regional MLS, and so we actually get data from Springfield area, from Galesburg, Macomb area, even some from Southern Illinois are now all sharing our system, and so that's why we're getting a lot more of those other counties in that data in there. I'm going to turn my screen. I can't read anymore. There we go. So I won't read this verbatim, but you can see we've had quite a bit more this year, a couple hundred more in the first quarter than we did last year. And keep in mind, that was before COVID too. So, and there was a little bit, if you think back to April, March of last year, there was where most things kind of just like shut down for a couple of weeks while people kind of figured out where we were going, what was happening. But with real estate, everything is on a rolling 30, 60, 90 days. So there was already things in motion during that time as well, because we're talking first quarter. And so again, the biggest increases, Peoria Heights, I'm sure no one's surprised to see that on there. Some of the other ones might be a little surprising, some of the smaller areas like Creve Coeur and Cuba and Macomb, even West Peoria. So that's really interesting. We've got definitely the number of home sales in Washington, East Peoria. We've seen a lot there. Average home price has increased a little bit, but not we're not seeing crazy numbers. I know when everyone says low inventory and you think of, or you hear some of the national data with, some of the coastal cities and states on the east or the west, and you hear, oh, they're making offers that are $100,000 over list price, and that's consistent data you're hearing and seeing. And so obviously those home sale prices have risen up quite a bit. We don't see that here. That's not the case here, but we do have an increase in that average sales price. So go ahead. There we go. I'm going to go through, I actually have the stats from April, March, and February, and I'm going to go through them backwards, just so you guys can see a few things. We can certainly go back through if you guys want to see something again, or I can share the information with you. So April stats. If you look at this, you've got, this is, you probably can't see it from where you guys are at, but this is April 2020 on this row, April 2021 here, and then it shows some year-to-date changes there. So if you look at the April 2020, there was 583 new listings in April 2020, and this, it's 798. Yeah, that 8 is a little fuzzy. So what's that say?
More homes?
That means
On the market.
more homes, right? That's a little bit different. Now keep in mind that was also, we're looking at April 2020, where that was COVID, and that's when a lot of research and data, nothing was out yet, and so a lot of people were very concerned about putting their homes on the market and what that would mean health-wise and everything like that. So keep that in mind as well. That we may be seeing that increase just because of what happened last year during that time. But keep that in mind as we go back to March and February data there. If you look at the pending sales, so new listings, 798. Pending sales, though, was 856. So more pending than what's currently getting listings. So that's where you're seeing the squeeze of the new inventory there. And I'm not going to get into all of the different data here, but if you're someone who really wants to analyze it, I'm happy to send it out. Go ahead and hit the next one. So March, we'll go to March. So March here, oh man, my March one actually is April on there. Well, we're going to skip that and we're just going to go to February. So the February, sorry about that, guys. I messed up my presentation and put the wrong image in. So let's just go to February, though, where we're at. February 2020, there were 617 houses, new listings in that month. This year, 447 new listings. So here, that's where, so just between February to April of this year, you see that flip-flop. Where last year there was a lot more. Now, also, again, keep in mind, February 2020 was before a lot of the shutdowns and stuff happened as well. So here, we're seeing, that was not a lot of houses, only 447 houses for the whole, multi-county area coming out in February. And I can say, personally, where I started to see numbers and what I call like the squeeze as far as less options and choices for buyers, I started to see it a little bit in November, really started seeing it January and February, just with my own clients. As we're looking at things. Pending sales, you can see, there was 456 in February 2020, and then in 2021, 572. So again, more going pending than are getting listed. So that's where we're starting to see that lower, because a lot of times the question is, what does low inventory mean? That just means there is less houses on the market than what buyers' demand is coming into the market. Let's go ahead. Yep. So ideas on, and we talked about a little of them, factors for the low inventory. Anyone have any ideas why we have low inventory right now?
Interest rates.
It's a big one. Interest rates.
People just refinanced and not want to lose that.
Exactly. Yep. So because we've had low interest rates, that's kind of two things have come out of that. One is buyers want to take advantage of the low interest rates, and if we can do our upgrade into a different house now, or move into the house that we were thinking about, in the next couple of years, maybe they weren't quite ready, but gosh, if you want to take advantage of the low interest rates, now would be the time. But then also, individuals who have been really happy with where they're at in their house and they don't need to move, hey, let's refinance. But once you refinance, you do want to stay in your property for X number of years, depending on the price point and everything, to make that refinance worthwhile, so that you don't lose money on that refinance. And so a lot of people have done the refinances, Rick can attest to, in 2019 and 2020, because we had really low interest rates. So we've had low interest rates for a couple of years now, and that has definitely been a factor. Any other factors? Anyone can
Very
think of?
little building,
Huh?
very little new construction.
Very little new construction. Yes. Unemployment. So
People can't get a loan.
exactly. Or maybe I've had a few clients where they were thinking about buying in the next couple of years, and we had started the process. They are still employed, but they had to take a pay cut in their job to keep their job. And so now what they qualified for is less than what they were going to qualify for. So now they're like, well, we want to stay where we're at for right now so that we can make a better move later. And so that definitely has affected. Or even if, furloughed for a little bit, or maybe had a few months, where they didn't have income, but now they have that job back, just that disruption in their income affects their qualification for loans. And so that's another factor. And so I just, go ahead and press that. So that would be, COVID related factors. National trends, I just threw this up here because I wanted to make a point and say Peoria tends to be a couple years behind the national market trends as far as housing. So I'm sure you guys have heard, if you listen to any kind of news reports or read any magazines, that there's been low inventory in a lot of other cities and states. And that was a couple of years ago, you've been hearing that. And now we're just starting to see it here. We've always been just kind of the Midwest here, central Illinois, just a little bit isolated, not affected by those larger trends. Takes a few years for it to kind of hit us, and so now that has happened as well. So, because a lot of times, back in 2018 and some 2019, I would say probably not in every area, but many areas of our Tri-County area were a little bit more buyer's markets, and which could be very confusing if people are looking and listening to national news sources where they're saying it's a seller's market, low inventory. It's like, well, wait a minute, but we're hearing locally. Real estate is always local. Pay attention to the local stuff and not necessarily the national news, because everything is very micro markets, and particularly our area as well. So what are buyers and sellers supposed to do in this market? I would say that I've had a lot of clients say, or not necessarily clients, just individuals when I'm out talking to people, hey, it must be really great for sellers right now. They're able to get top dollar for their house sold, really quickly. I bet they're just so happy. Well, in a sense, yes, and many of them are, but it's also can be very stressful and confusing because it's happening very quickly. And it's not the case right now where you can go place an offer on another 1 minute. I'm sorry, I'm talking faster. It's not very easy right now to place an offer on a house contingent on your house selling, just because of the demand. You'll be up against offers that don't have that contingency, and that's something I sit down and talk with my clients about, alternatives to that. And so, but for sellers, think about it. If they list their house, then all of a sudden they've got, particularly if they live in their house still, multiple showings scheduled for the next couple of days. They've got to figure out where to go for literally a couple of days. If there's showings scheduled, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. sprinkled throughout the day, it's going to be hard for them to get in and out. So they pretty much have to plan on them, their kids, their pets, all being out, and that's really difficult, particularly during COVID. I mean, now this last week or so, things have opened up more, but there's been times in the last couple of months where do you go? You can't just necessarily go into a coffee shop and sit down and hang out all day. You certainly can't go with your pets in tow, and so that's a challenge for a lot of families as well with that. And so it's just working through that, and sellers have to have a place to go as well. And so we kind of look at plan A, plan B, and plan C, because I want my clients to have different options, because that's something that we got to do. Go ahead and hit the next. So having plan A, plan B, being flexible, because there's always hiccups that could happen. And so It could be on buyer side, could be on seller side, could be lender, could be, one that happened yesterday was a moving company was supposed to pack up my sellers on, yesterday, and they will not arrive until Thursday to pack them up, and we close Friday. So if there's any more delays with the moving truck, we're kinda gonna be sitting down and figuring out what to do about it. Delaying closing, is there compensation with that? I mean, just throwing out all that stuff, to figure out. And so being flexible, having, different options. With our buyers, it's a lot of, communication, preparation, teamwork. I say that because, Amanda and I do a lot of teamwork as far as, okay, we have buyers that need to see houses, and you gotta see them pretty quickly once they hit the market if they're, a good contender for the buyer. And so we've gotta look at our schedules and figure who can get out there fastest with this client. And really teaming up and making sure we're servicing our clients the best we can. Really, the biggest thing is the preparation beforehand, and that's making sure we've got, the financing figured out, the pre-approval with Rick, at F&M. And then also, I put, buyers having financing options over here. That is where, let's say that someone really would like to sell their house first, and maybe they need to, or maybe they don't need to. So let's have both those options available. If they want to, just to not have to have the stress of potentially 2 mortgages, let's have our lender write up, the letter stating that, when it's contingent on, their house selling. But then also, maybe they don't need to, but it's the last resort, for them to get 2 mortgages. Let's have that other lender, or that other lender letter prepped and ready in our back pocket, just in case we need to use it, just in case we have to drop that contingency. And just having some of those extra things in there. I'm ignoring, next stop sign. And so I'm wrapping up. And so just having, a lot of communication, teamwork, talking about it, with my clients to make sure they are prepared and ready, both on the buying and the selling side, to make sure that at the end of this, they're satisfied with whether it's, getting into a house or whether it's, selling their house and moving or getting into a different one. So I think that's my last slide. So any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When do you expect, you have any idea when you expect the market to settle down, or like there to be more inventory in Peoria?
So, it's summer now, and Memorial Day weekend always seems to be a little bit more of an uptick of, people getting into the market, both buyers and sellers. So, we will see some more listings just now that people have had a couple of weeks to tend to their landscaping and their yards, and now they're like, okay, now the outside work is a little bit done, now I feel ready. And so we will see a little bit more, but I think that we're going to continue to see low inventory for quite a while.
Okay.
So with the, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you, so with the low inventory, high construction costs, if and when the construction costs kind of like settle down, do you see more new building in Peoria to kind of help stabilize the low inventory?
I think we will. I think that there's definitely, a demand or a want for it. A lot of clients are looking for that, but the high prices of the construction material right now are just keeping people at bay and not wanting to pay that extra cost.
Are there any areas of the market that aren't seeing that crunch?
I could pull up a different data sheet where it just talks about like kind of the different cities and areas, and talk about the saturation rate, kind of the months on market that we have. And so yeah, there's some areas that are a little bit less, but I would say across the board we've seen definitely low inventory across the board. A good question, and I can maybe come up with that for next time
Yeah.
and show that to you. Any other questions?
Jessica? Yeah.
Oh.
It's Ryan.
Yes.
It's Ryan. I just had a question about, like, do you feel like the uncertainty in the economy has a lot to play with, like, why people aren't maybe listing houses? Maybe they're not looking to upgrade houses or move just yet. Do you feel like that has much role in it, or is it external factors, things like that?
No, I think that's definitely a factor. It's playing a role in it, and because the uncertainty maybe with the economy, also if someone is going to sell their current house, again, that question of where are they going to go, and say the logistics is definitely the problem that we are looking to solve the most when I sit down with clients, is the logistics of it. But yeah, no, certainly a factor, one of many.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, thanks everyone.